Brilliant. Welcome to this virtual meeting of North Tyneside Council's Finance Subcommittee, following recent introduction of regulations to allow remote meetings in light of the current coronavirus pandemic. My name is Councillor Anthony McMullen, and I am the chair of this subcommittee. I would like to inform everyone that this meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel to enable the public to observe the proceedings, and I welcome anyone who is watching. Before we move on to the agenda, I would like to make it clear who is participating in the meeting and explain how we intend to conduct the meeting. In order to check who's in the meeting, I would like to ask everyone to present who to confirm their attendance at the meeting. First of all, I'll call out the name of each of the committee members. After I call your name, please turn on your microphone and camera and introduce yourself. So, Councillor Debbie Cox.
Hi, I'm Councillor Debbie Cox, I'm Deputy Chair of Finance and Common Board.
Brilliant, thank you. I've got Councillor Naomi Craven has placed her apologies. Brings us on to Councillor John O'Shea.
Yes, I'm here from sunny Whitley Bay.
Brilliant. Do we have Councillor John Stirling in attendance? I don't believe we do. Okay.
Good, Chair.
Councillor Paul Richardson.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, Paul Richardson.
Brilliant, thank you. And Councillor Judith Wallace.
Yes, hello, Judith Wallace here, St Marysville.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Can I now just ask the officers in attendance to introduce themselves, stating along your name and job role. After I call your name, please turn on your microphone and introduce yourself. So starting with Janice Gillespie.
Good evening, I'm Janice Gillespie. I'm Head of Resources and Chief Finance Officer for the Authority.
Brilliant. Claire Emerson.
Hi everyone, Claire Emerson, Senior Manager, Financial Strategy and Planning.
Brilliant. Kathy Davison.
Hi, Kathy Davison, Finance Service Principal Accountant, looking after capital investment.
Brilliant. David Dunford.
Hello, David Dunford, Senior Business Partner for the Finance team.
Brilliant, thank you. Tracy Hunter.
Hello, I'm Tracy Hunter. I'm Client Manager for Revenues, Benefits and Customer Services.
Brilliant. Andrew Scott, for fancy name today.
Thank you. Hi, Andy Scott. I'm the Senior Manager for Revenues, Benefits and Customer Services.
Brilliant. And I think based on who's attended, I've also got Paul Wheeler.
Yes, I'm Paul Wheeler from Democratic Services.
Oh, is there anyone else present who I've missed? Brilliant. Okay. For today's meeting, we must first of all deal with some formalities, i.e. apologies for absence, declarations of interest and confirmation of minutes. The agenda papers contain 3 reports for this meeting. I will take each of the reports in turn as they appear on the agenda, which has been published on the Council's website. For each of the reports, I will ask the relevant officer to introduce the item. I will then ask the members of the committee if they have any questions, and I will then ask if any members wish to make a comment on the report. In terms of etiquette for the meeting, can I remind everyone that they should mute their microphones and turn off their webcams unless they are currently speaking. So item 1, apologies for absence. We have sort of covered that at the beginning, but that would be Naomi Craven. And an appointment. Do we have any further apologies for absence?
No, Chair.
Brilliant. Appointment of substitute members. Do we have any substitutes?
We don't, Chair.
Okay. And declarations of interest. Do any members wish to declare an interest in any of the items of business on the agenda? Okay. I'll take that as no. If there is anybody, please put your hand up and I'll take it in the next couple of minutes. But there we move swiftly on to item 4, which is minutes of the last meeting. Can I ask that the minutes of the last meeting held on the 11th of February 2020 be approved as a correct record?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. That brings us on to item 5, welfare reform, finance update, pages 7 to 13. Can I ask Andy Scott to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to present an updated report on the schemes in place to help some of our more financially vulnerable residents in North Tyneside. I'd like to cover the different avenues of support in the order they are set out in the report, if I may. So I would like to start with the discretionary housing payments. Table 1 at paragraph 3.05 of the report outlines the grant we've received for 2020-2021 this financial year. The grant amount is £558,563. This represents an increase of £109,173 from last financial year's funding. So this additional money from government is very much welcomed. To date this financial year, we have spent or committed £177,548, which represents 31.8% of the fund. As ever, we carefully manage the fund throughout the year. Spend on DHP is actually lower this financial year than it was at the same point in 1920. Last financial year, we had 464 successful applications at this time. In this financial year, we have 314. Likewise, the percentage of funding we've spent is lower this financial year than it was last financial year. This is primarily down to two reasons. The first is that the local housing allowance has been increased by government, so tenants in the private housing sector can now get a greater amount of their rent covered by housing benefit. Therefore, we no longer have a shortfall to pay themselves, and we have had less applications coming forward for that reason. The second point is that there's been restrictions on recovery action during the lockdown period of COVID-19, so private landlords haven't been able to serve eviction notices or chase people for rent during that period. Likewise, the council have taken a no recovery approach for a 12-week period, although we are looking to recommence that now, obviously with a softer approach going forward. We continue to promote DHP through our partners at Citizens Advice Bureau, and we will be working with our residents to make sure people who are entitled to it get the support they need throughout this financial year. We still refer claimants to DHP to Citizens Advice Bureau to ensure that they receive independent advice on benefits and debt, so their financial position is often improved. And DHP is very much a short-term rather than long-term aim. That covers the update on DHP. Chair, I don't know if you want to take questions on each individual item or for me just to go through the whole report.
We normally do it by section, so it seems appropriate to keep going that sort of way.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions up to paragraph 3.09?
Councillor Cox.
Yep. Councillor
Hi.
Cox?
Hi, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for that report. It's very in-depth and really good. Thank you. I just know it said at the moment, obviously with the 12 weeks for the rentals, it's kind of everything is a lot lower. Unfortunately, things are improved, like getting back to a relative normality. Do you think the claims will kind of catch up from the last 12 weeks? Therefore, we'll be in a kind of like a worse position, or there'll be a lot more applicants to the actual fund?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I think we will catch up with applications. So certainly when the recovery processes start again and people are reminded that we've got arrears, they'll then start to seek help, some financial help coming forward. So we are anticipating more people coming forward and we are prepared for that.
Excellent, good news. Thank you very much.
3.09.
Okay, yep. We now move on to the local council tax support scheme. On a regular basis, before this committee, we've reported that the numbers of residents claiming local council tax support has slowly decreased over the last few years as working age claimants moved into employment, and we saw a gradual reduction in the number of pensioners making claims. However, for this financial year, I can advise members that due to the impacts of COVID-19, we've seen an increase in residents claiming council tax support since the middle of March, with a 7% increase in the working age caseload. As at the end of June, we now have 17,701 claimants, 9,963 of which are of working age and 7,738 pensioners. The cost of the scheme for this year currently stands at £15.4 million, and we are anticipating more residents coming forward for support as the furlough scheme ends gradually from August through to the end of October. We're working with our residents to support them in access to benefit and debt advice, and we are making flexible payment arrangements for payments wherever possible. In addition to the local council tax support scheme this year, the government have also provided additional funding as part of its COVID-19 response to economically vulnerable people. So North Tyneside received £2.024 million as a hardship fund, as part of that funding, we were advised by government that up to £150 should be awarded to each working age household that were claiming council tax support. So we have done that to over 9,000 households in North Tyneside, and that's used up so far £1.45 million of the fund. We also have a direction that anybody new coming forward to the council tax support scheme throughout the year will also be entitled to that £150. So we'll be utilising more of that 2.024 million. The positive news is that 58% of our working age local council tax support claimants, because of this £150 payment, no longer have to make any payment at all for this financial year. And the remaining bit of the hardship fund, just to update on, is that I'm currently leading a COVID-19 recovery work stream across the council that's looking at welfare support, and we're working with our community and voluntary sector partners to see how the remaining funding can be used to support residents. So we'll be bringing that back forward before Cabinet, and obviously reporting the Finance Subcommittee how we propose to spend the residual amount of money going forward. Again, happy to take any questions on the council tax support scheme.
Okay, I believe I've got questions from Councillor Cox. I'm still up from the last time.
Yep, sorry, hand was still up from the last time. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll move on now to the third scheme, which is the Welfare Provision Scheme, which is administered by our Gateway team and Adult Social Care. As set out at point 3.16 of the report, the local welfare provision team have seen an increase in residents contacting the team for support. So they've had 677 residents come forward and ask for help, against a number of 439 for the same period last year. And the report at 3.22 details this is merely down to, again, the COVID-19 crisis on the service. So the staff have been taking time to support residents during a call. Time was lengthened, providing reassurance and direct support or signposting to help with other partners. One of the key things was that they are seeing people coming forward for support that haven't done in the past. So there were new people to the benefit system, people who are furloughed or unfortunately been made unemployed. So they had been providing food and utility vouchers until benefit claims were made in some of those circumstances. The team also reported that they've been working very well with FODA and the COVID hubs to ensure people who needed food parcels or support with shopping or medication collections have been receiving that as well. So they've very much been aligned to the work that Felicity Shoesmith and the team have been doing about our response to COVID-19 and helping our residents that are in need. Again, happy to answer any questions on that part of it.
Debbie?
Thank you, Chair. Just one quick question on the local welfare provision on 3.22. You differentiate between the applicant for one of three categories. Is it possible to differentiate by numbers on the three categories for the increase, please? Obviously, quite a question. I'll come back.
No, I understand. I'll have to come back to the committee on that. I'll obviously provide the figures, but I haven't got the separate figures in front of me for the three separate categories.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions?
Okay, thank you. Last week I move on to the universal credit. Again, just a summary for what's in the report. The universal credit full service has been in existence in North Tyneside since May 2018. And again, when I've been reporting to the committee over previous months, we've reported a slow but steady increase of universal credits in North Tyneside, universal credit claimants. However, the number of recipients for universal credit in North Tyneside increased substantially this financial year. Between the end of March and the end of April this year, the figure rose by a whopping 39.7%. That has slowed in May and June, but we are still seeing numbers coming forward. Again, that's because of the COVID-19 crisis and people either being out of work or furloughed for a period of time, so they're seeking universal credit as some support. Nationally, you've probably seen in the press that for between the 1st of March and the 19th of May, I think the headline figures are 2.9 million people come forward and claim universal credit. Just to give you an idea of numbers in North Tyneside, the claimant count at the end of March on UC was 11,482. At the end of April, that had jumped to 16,042. And then at the end of June, we're now at 17,248. For North Tyneside Council, the impact of universal credit claimants is also being seen in our Housing Services Department. And at the end of June, we've now got 4,000 tenants, or just over 4,000 tenants, in receipt of universal credit. At 3.2 of the report, that sets out the situation regarding tenant rent arrears for those in receipt of universal credit. And the team are working very closely with our tenants to try and support them. Again, there's been a 12-week pause in recovery action about rent arrears, but that will be starting up again in the next few weeks, but obviously with very supportive action about how we make long-term payment arrangements and try and help people through the current process. And that concludes the report, Chair, so happy to answer any questions on the universal credit.
Are there any further questions? I am audible, right? Councillor Wallace?
Yes, please, Chair. Thank you, Andy, for your report. I noticed in 3.25 you say that the locally the claims are fully up to date in the way in which they're being dealt with, the universal credit, which is good. And you say in the next paragraph that there are work coaches available for people who are seeking help with finding work or training. Do you have any idea how many claimants are taking advantage of that service?
I don't have the figures off the top of my head, Councillor Wallace, but I can certainly ask DWP to provide those and get those back to you. I know they've certainly resourced up in DWP to be able to cope with the increased demand, and that the director's very much been locally that they want to turn around the claims as quickly as possible, so people aren't suffering. But I'll ask the DWP representative for figures and forward those onto the committee.
I presume that everybody's advised that that service is available, that help is available.
Yes, that is advertised.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Are there any further questions to this report? No. Any comments? Oh, well, I ask members to note the report. Happy to do that. We'll just move on to item 6. Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you.
I believe that is Janice Gillespie to introduce the Provisional Finance Outturn Report, agenda pages 17 to 122.
Yes, a small report. Thank you, Chair. This is the 2019-20 Provisional Outturn Report that we took to Cabinet at the end of June. So this report sets out what we expect the position to be for the General Fund, the housing revenue account and school finance, and the investment plan in respect of the final year-end position. It also sets out the level of reprogramming we expect, and it also sets out where we've performed against the Treasury management position, and in addition to the capital and Treasury management prudential indicators. It also sets out, as usual, any new grants that have been received since the last reporting period. Clearly, there were substantial grants towards the year end in respect of COVID, so kind of £46 million worth of grants highlighted in the report. I guess I won't go through every page because clearly it's a big report. I guess probably one of the most important sections is in terms of the annex, where we describe on page, I'm just scrolling down here, bear with me 1 second. Page, now I've gone too far, I do apologise. Page 10, which describes the General Fund outturn position. So as what we have to do is report the overall accounting position as well as the normal standard variance. So the column, the third column, which shows the variance, is the 50,000 general bottom line variance that we achieved in advance of the dividends, which have been set to one side in terms of within the strategic reserve. But we are required to
page 34.
Page 10.
It's page 34 of our documents. Page
Oh,
20.
sorry. Yes,
Okay,
sorry.
that's
Page
what it
34. Yes. But then we're also required to show the accounting adjustments that we've made, which allows everybody then to reconcile back to the statement of accounts that have been published. I just wanted to make that clear. In terms of the report, obviously one of the key sections within the report, probably more important than ever, is on page 29 of the report, which sets out in paragraph 1.6 kind of that reserves and outlook position, where I guess given Cabinet at the time of writing this kind of picture of where we expected COVID to impact on the authority, what things were beginning to look like in terms of additional cost pressures and income foregone against the grant that we were expected to receive. So there's that initial picture set out there. And clearly we continue to look at that in terms of monitoring this current year's financial position, which the first report will be through to Cabinet at the beginning of August. So I won't go through any more detail. I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think there are probably some questions in here, I would think. Shall we just start from section 1?
Yeah.
And then just shout out if we've got anything within those particular sections. And then at the end, if I've missed anything, feel free, we'll jump around then. Let's try and give a little bit of structure to it.
Yeah.
So section 1 starts page 27 and ends on page 32. Does anyone have anything within there? Councillor Wallace. They're on mute.
Thank you. Paragraph 1.13 on page 27, which refers to the dividend payments from the airport, the additional £637,000 that the authority has received. When did you first learn that that money was going to be paid?
About a week before we got it.
And when was that?
Oh, I can't. Sorry, Councillor Wallace, I'd have to double check that, but it was literally we found out about it and then received it. So I'd have to double check when that was.
The authority still has 2 directors on the airport company, isn't it? Yeah. So were they not aware that this dividend was likely, or when did they have the discussions about it?
No, and certainly as a group of treasurers, we hadn't been advised that it was proposed. So no, it was very late in the day, very late announcement.
It seems astonishing to me, because I remember asking about airport dividends early calendar year, indeed towards the end of last year as well, I think. And it seems astonishing to me that if we have 2 directors on this company and yet they knew nothing about it, what sort of oversight are they exercising? What kind of financial information is being provided for the board? I find that really concerning that it came out of the blue and they weren't aware of it, or indeed that the officer group didn't appear to be aware of it.
Well, certainly I wasn't aware, and certainly not made aware through the board that this potential was anticipated, because you're quite right. Obviously, we've been asking questions at budget setting time with regard to the airport dividend. I can go back and review the airport board papers to determine the level of dialogue that was around this. But I can assure you we hadn't been advised as officers that this was going to happen.
Yeah, well, I fully accept your assurance, but I'm just astonished that the directors are not asking the questions. I mean, what are they asking about the finances? What, what investigation do they make into the information which they're given? What questions do they ask about the financial health of the company and its likely profitability and payment of dividends. I thought that as directors that was something that they would be looking at.
I can pick up in terms of when the last boards happened to understand what was on the papers.
Yes, I mean, it might not be the most recent one, but I would have thought that, how often does it be? Is it quarterly still? Half yearly? Quarterly, I think it used to be.
It used to be, but I think I don't think it's quite as frequently now.
Probably not during the pandemic, but I would have thought that, you know, for the bulk of the last financial year, it would have continued to meet regularly, and one would have expected them to have approached it with an inquiring mind, shall we say.
Yeah. I'll take that back, Councillor Wallace, and I guess advise the committee of the boards and kind of an oversight of what was discussed at the boards.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman.
No problem. Is there anything further in this first section? No? Okay. Moving on to section 2, which is pages 33 through to 36. I'll ask one first and I'll bring Councillor Wallace in. The first bit is, I think it's a great swing we've managed to do there from January to the year end.
Yeah.
Making that movement of 4 million.
Yeah.
I think it's even better thing that we've actually got where I've read it, we've got a pocket £500,000 in there, which we were intending to bring things in from balances and reserves to balance off the resources one. So it's an even more positive number, but we chose not to use that particular mitigating action. So I think from being in a 3 million or near 3 million overspend to essentially being 1.5 under, I know we're reporting 1, or at least 1.1. I think it's definitely a decent marked improvement.
Yeah.
That's just my first comment on there. Councillor Wallace?
Thank you, Chairman. It was really actually going back to my last question, if you don't mind. Who are the directors that represent the authority currently on the airport board, Janice?
I think it's Mayor. I can't remember who else. Sorry, I'll have to double check that, Judith. I'll check that now, actually. Sorry, Chair, can I come back to that?
Yeah, we'll come back if we can come back near the end with it. If not, we'll bring it in writing with a bit of a more formal wrap up of it.
That's fine.
Because I think it needs to be top and tailed a little bit, so that makes sense. Right, so are there any further questions or any questions in section 2? Yeah. Section 3, which is pages 37 and 38. Pertaining to the delivery of budget saving proposals. All content with that. Okay. Brings us on to section 4, the new revenue grants, pages 39 and 40. And great numbers in there. It's a shame that we're probably going to spend them all and more to cover what they need to be covered.
Yeah.
Oh, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. On the new grants that have been received, on page 39, please, the free school meals supplementary grant of more than £250,000 says that the number of pupils eligible for free school meals will increase because of that. Does that mean, therefore, as well, that the amount of pupil premium that the schools get will also increase? I'm presuming that it does because they're linked, aren't they?
I don't know the direct answer to that, Councillor Wallace. Claire, do you?
Not directly. We certainly haven't been informed of any additional pupil premium grant as such. I can take that question away and bring it back in a subsequent answer, if that's okay.
Yes, if you would please, because my understanding was that pupil premium was paid if a child was in receipt of
That's right.
It is. but the allocations for pupil premium for 2019-20 had already been made. It's whether or not they've had any supplementary allocations in relation to any additional free school meals potentially that they might have done, and I'm not aware of any at this point in time.
Okay, we can let us know. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay.
Oh, right. So I think we're gonna. Do you have any further questions in this section, Judith? No. Okay.
Sorry, no, thank
That's okay. Right. So I think the next section is, to use a colloquial term, a beastie section. It is section 5, the service commentaries, which runs from page 41 to page 63. Does anyone have any questions in this section? I can start us off. On page 41,
Yeah.
I was just wanting to make sure that we've got a statement here. I think it's 5.2.2. Is that the right bit? I have it highlighted here. The differences here of a 20th of March closure is that it's a 5.2.3. That impact, was that just for the period of the 20th of March to the 30th of March?
Yeah, well, it was round about the 16th of March. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wowzers. It was more of a, wow, that number is big.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on page 42, the Integrated Disability and Additional Needs Service. I was just wondering, they overspend there.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense to why we do it. I was just wondering, how does that link in with our adaptations budget, or is that like a completely separate thing and the words are just very similar? I was wondering, because I think we had it in the investment board under spending in adaptations.
Yeah.
But the budget, I just didn't understand how those two things linked. It might just be the words are similar, but they actually mean completely different things.
The words are similar, but it's a provision of, it's not the same. It's a different set of provision around kind of disability need, I think, more than anything. But I can get you an answer that's a bit clearer on that. But it's a different provision.
Cool. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss out on an opportunity there to, you know, use the funds appropriately. Cool. I'm just flicking through these. The page 40. I can hear Mr. Hanson there. Page 45. 5.2.18. It'd be lovely if there was a key on it. I can't work out what it's telling us, and it's in black and white. The bars don't come up very well, so I can't quite work out 5.2.18 chart 2.
Okay, right. Take that on board.
Thank you. I managed to work it out, but I required is being my glasses.
Yeah.
And squinting. Right. Anybody else with questions? I will keep hunting for some more. No? Okay. I'm still flipping. Page 53. 5.3.7. And it might just be the phrasing of it. Did that queue route system go via any governance boards?
Hold on a second. 5.3.7. Right. Okay. It's already been implemented.
Did it miss the governance forums that are there, or did it just not get put through it?
It was pre the new governance forums that are in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check that they've got the savings versus the cost of the software, because they don't tend to give away those things for free.
Yeah. No.
So I just wanted to make sure we definitely got savings on it, and it wasn't we're saved in one line in our software licensing.
Understood.
So I'm not sure if that can be brought back at a different time.
I can certainly ask the question. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, page 57. Just confused on the units, because I assume ones and thousands because it's got K on it, but then the next one down, that's no longer in the same unit. The units in 5.4.18 and 5.4.17, I think they're in different units.
Yeah, I think you could be right.
Because when I divided it down, otherwise we've only got 127 people using bins in North Tyneside. So
Yeah.
I assume the currency is different, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
Yeah, no, we'll pick that up.
Oh. And 58, I was confused because it might just be me and how I work out financial years, but are we in financial year 2020 now, or are we in financial year 2020 at the end of April?
We are financial year 2020 is the year ended March 20.
Okay. I'm just checking because my head yet again was confused.
Yeah.
And then that makes, if I add up 5.4.20 and 5.4.21, the two tables,
Yeah.
I get to 38.73% of our waste. Where does the other 60% go?
It goes to landfill.
No, 0% goes to landfill according to the chart.
Hang on a minute. Sent for reuse.
Sent for reuse is 38.73 plus 0% going to landfill, where we're putting the other 60%.
Good question.
Sorry. I sat there with a fine tooth comb and a pen yesterday going through all these.
You have, haven't you?
Sorry.
Can anybody in my team answer that question? Right, we'll have to come
Both
back with that.
David and Claire unmuted, then mute themselves again.
Well, I was going to say, chairs, I think we'll have to take that one away and speak to colleagues in Environment, Housing and Leisure.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm sure it's an obvious answer, I just can't work it out. So it'll be great to work out where the other 60% goes. Cool. Has anybody else in the committee got any questions yet? I'm sure the people on YouTube are getting sick of hearing my voice. Nope. Okay. 64 in the main, the school balance is looking a bit better.
They do a bit, yeah.
Bit not all brilliant news, but at least it's a positive movement and a little bit better than we forecasted, which proves that I believe that the budget deficit clinics are clearly working.
Yeah.
At least they go in the right direction.
They are, yeah.
Right, so I think that brings us on to section 7, housing revenue account.
And Councillor Wallace might have a hand up.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman, I think you missed me. Page 60, the Region and Economic Development, 5.5.4 refers again to previously reported pressures on the rental income for business units at the Swan Centre.
Yeah. Yeah.
This seems to come up time and time again. What's happening with the forecasting? Is the budget setting wrong? Because every time we seem to get these shortfalls.
There is an assumed level of vacancy planned into the budget, so we never assume that it will be 100% occupied 100% of the time. I think what's impacted on the occupancy during 1920 was the top 3 floor. There was work progressing in the top 3 floors. So I think because of that, that's impacted on them being able to secure new tenants to fill the building, as in fill the occupancy on the first 2 floors. So what I would hope to see is through the marketing over the that we've seen, I guess post-COVID now, that we'll see those estimates of occupancy improved. I think at the time the budget would have been set for here, it would have been pre us getting the additional funding for the top floors. So I suspect what we haven't do is anticipated, I guess, the impact that might have had on securing tenants on the first 2 floors.
Okay, thank you.
So if we could move on to section 7, housing revenue account. Okay, so firstly, it looks like a brilliant story here of how much we've managed to save. And I assume baked in the budget already, there was a saving, so it's probably over and above the saving we anticipated.
Yes, it was, yes.
Which I think is a wonderful position for our housing tenants. Frees up the cash for more things to go their way. Cool. The question I had on 73 was answered later on, which is the capital receipts. How true does the capital receipts number go to? Because I think it's right. I'm right in saying 7.13, the table there. That was so we get those capital receipts. We don't get to keep all that money to actually reinvest in houses. Some of it goes to having to pay off previous debts and stuff, and back to the government and all that sort of lovely stuff. So it's not a true reflection of the 44 grand on average a house that we retain back in, because we have to pay off all those other things. So yeah. Cool. Anything on the house? Anyone else on the housing revenue account? Okay, then we move on to section 5, the investment plan, which is pages 75 and onwards. No? I'm going to keep 10 pages. So section 9, the annual Treasury Management Review and Prudential Indicators. Any questions on those? Looking good that our overall foreign position is moving down at this present time.
At this present time, yep.
Sorry, I can read your face. Right. Right. So that is the main part of the book, and then we've got our appendixes. Oh, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. It was a general question really for Janet and the team. What is your view on future borrowing, Jonathan, given the current extremely low interest rates? What's your overall opinion?
I guess what we do at the moment is we continue to keep an eye, you're right, to the borrowing rates, and continue to think about when's the right time to lock in some of the under borrowing that we currently have. So at the year end, we had a level of under borrowing, but I think we've taken a bit of action since year end to lock in some of that. I think the markets are still favourable. I don't know if Amar's on the call, in terms of kind of short-term borrowing rates. So we continue to try and, I guess, keep the benefit of short-term rates at the moment, because they are so low, to help prop up the bottom line. But we do keep an eye to that longer-term position and when we might want to lock in some of the internal borrowing that we're doing. So we've continued with the same approach that we've had over the last few years. They are historically low rates. You're absolutely right. And what's interesting as well, we continue to be in dialogue with central government around when they may think about, I guess, reducing the debt management office rates down by that 1% premium that they added earlier in the year.
Thank you.
Okay. So that brings us through. We've got a schedule of reserves before us.
Chair David Douglas.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair, it was just thinking back to the waste graphs that you mentioned before.
Yeah.
I think actually what the issue is, the graphs are showing 3 of the possible streams. So they're showing what goes to reuse or recycling or composting. What they don't show is the majority of the waste goes to energy from waste. So it's part of our main contract with Suez at the moment. So the other 60% goes to there, and the remaining recycle it goes to the 38% that's shown in the graph, and that's how we end up with zero landfill at the end in the current climate. So that's what's missing off the graph is the energy from waste.
Brilliant. See, nice simple answer. I knew you'd be in there somewhere. Councillor Richardson. Thank you, David.
Hello, thanks,
Dennis. I just had a question going back on treasury management. Can you hear me?
Which page number were you on? Sorry, Paul.
Page 9. Well, it's on page 19 in the summary.
19. That small page 19.
Yeah, 1.8.
Yes.
My question really was lending to other authorities.
Yep.
My question, I suppose, is given the government's pledge to support authorities, all authorities, the current crisis, and the likelihood of that actually happening, what's your view on lending to other authorities? I mean, is there a hierarchy of creditors in this world that if a local authority gets into trouble, you can see where I'm going?
Yes, I guess from a treasury management perspective, most I guess local authorities have a particular credit rating which is consistent across the piece. We don't, to my knowledge, differentiate where we were doing inter-authority lending, because we would expect that to be guaranteed almost, if you like, in terms of if any authority happened to get into difficulty, because I would expect fully that central government would ensure that that treasury position wasn't putting another authority at risk. So we don't look at that in the same way we might if we were lending outside of the local government sector, which we wouldn't do because of the risks associated with that. It's a completely different level of risk that local authorities have per se, so we continue to follow the inter-authority route.
Okay, now that makes absolute sense. I suppose what was behind my question is, what do you think is the possibility of that scenario changing? Given a long way from the end of this crisis. And
I think what I would say at the moment is we're not being advised as treasurers by either central government or indeed our treasury management advisors not to continue with inter-authority lending and borrowing. So I would suggest until we are advised that that's a problem for us, then we will continue to carry out the treasury management in the way that we do currently.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay. Cool. Is there anything in the appendixes that we have before us? I've got one on page 97, which is on the copies I've got before me. I'm out by a row, so I'm not quite sure which header is wrong, but all my subtotals are one line above where they should be.
Okay.
The investment plan out in variations report.
Okay. So what you're saying, the totals don't work?
The total on mine, the total general fund line with the bold is against contingency provision.
All right, I see what you're saying. Yes, it doesn't look right. I get you.
So I could knock it down, but I didn't know which line I had to knock down to make the numbers line up.
Yeah, you just need to bring it one row down.
Yeah, but I don't know which one needed to go one row down.
All right, it's right from the top actually. Kathy, can you see that? I'm just assuming that actually. I don't know what's gone wrong there. I'm just having a look.
So if we can just get it reissued with the right.
Yeah, we'll reissue that with the right. Yeah,
with the right carriage return in the right place wherever it should be. So any other questions pertaining to this report? Councillor Richardson, is that your hand still up from the last time? Taking no news is good news. Councillor Wallace?
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at the investment plan out-of-turn variations on page 97. The 064 council property investment.
Yep.
Can you just tell me what that covers, Janice, please?
That's the I guess the share capital investment we make with the no, it's not.
That's the line below, I guess.
No, it's not. Yeah, they're right. That's sorry, I'm having a blank moment.
Kathy, if you know the answer, feel free to jump in because I can see your hands up.
Yeah, Kathy's got a hand up.
That's works that are done by the authority prior to the trading company taking on a project. So, for example, the kind of pre-works at Northumberland Square were charged there, and works at Backworth Park Primary at the moment that need to be done prior to the trading company taking on the project. So for Backworth Park Primary, for example, it's the demolition of the school.
Right, I see. So none of that features in the trading company accounts, does it not?
No, this is work that's done prior to the trading company taking a project on.
Well,
Thank you, Kathy.
thank you. Are there any further questions on the provisional finance out-turn report? Okay. Do any members have any comments regarding the report? Okay, and if that's the case, can we ask members to note the report? Okay, at this point, this is what brings us to a interesting switch in our meeting. But thank you to all the officers and members of the public watching this live stream. And the next finance subcommittee meeting will take place at 6 p.m. on the 15th of September 2020. I ask all members to turn on their microphones and request that members agree to pass the exclusion resolution for agenda item 9 as it contains exempt information, and assuming the resolution is passed, the live stream will then be switched off and enable the final item of business to be concluded in private. So I ask if we're happy to pass the exclusion resolution.
Agreed.
Agree. I think
Agreed.
it's actually agenda item.
I can't add up, can I? That's a good point. It is, yeah, sorry. Yes, that is agenda item 7. Right, so thank you very much. Members, please hold whilst we disconnect from YouTube.
Can you disconnect, Kevin, please?